Hello, welcome back to Freddy in the Shed. I hope you're all well. Another video on this tiny little pocket radio, which I call a spy radio because it just reminds me of something that would have come out of the Cold War. Now, when I did the main review for this radio, which has been quite popular on the channel, instantly, as soon as I put that video up, you said, Fred, you've got to get across to Paul's channel, and that's Oscar Mike 0 Echo Tango, because Paul's done an upgrade on the firmware on this radio, and it takes away all of the problems that you had with the timed double click on the encoder. And I'm already a subscriber to Paul's YouTube channel. Mostly is about ham radio, but I do find it quite interesting. And I know a few of you did send links to that channel, direct links. I don't see them. If you put a link in a comment, it just gets swept away. You get so many dodgy links that people try and upload onto your comments section that mine are set now that I just don't see them. So there's no point in you doing that. But a few of you did mention it. So I thought I'd give it a go, and I did it this morning. And that's what I'm going to show you in this video. But I don't want to take anything away from Paul, because all I did was copied his instructions on his YouTube channel. Now, if you're very computer savvy and you're able to follow a guide very easily, I'd suggest that you go ahead and watch his video and just follow that, and I'll link it in the description, because that's all I did. What I've done on this version is, because I'm not that computer savvy, and I know a lot of you out there also perhaps don't do firmware updates. I don't do that many of them myself. I've broken this down and I've slowed it down with detailed screenshots of how I got on. I did have a few problems, mostly because I was trying to use a very old computer, and that was because reading the comments on Paul's video, people had said that their computers had brought up virus detections such as Trojans and things like that. So I didn't want to use it on my main computers that I run the channel, so I used an older Windows 7 computer. That did cause me a couple of problems, and I'll show you that in the video. But I'm taking nothing away from Paul's guide, which I followed. But anyway, we'll do it Fred in the Shed style, a very much slower pace, and that will be coming up in just a second. I haven't connected this radio to an antenna yet, so I don't know how it receives, but we'll just zoom in and I'll just show you how much better getting to the menu system is on the radio. Now, as always, any flickering or lines that you see is purely on the camera picking up on the screen. It's not like that in real life. Now, one of the first things I want to do is remove the very small knob that comes with the radio, and I found this one, which may or may not look all that good, but I want to fit that on. There we go. Straight away, that helps me. It's much bigger to use. Whether it looks any good, I'm not really sure. So the big change I can see on this software is you now get a signal meter at the bottom of the screen, more like you would get on a HF radio, but basically it's how you get into that menu system. You remember on the old system you had to do a timed double tap, which was quite annoying to do. That's been replaced now. A single tap. And this no longer times out, so you've got all the time in the world now to click on what you want. And I think that's just so much better. There also has been, I can see, a couple of things added. I haven't gone through all of this yet, but I did see, going through this, oh, we've got calibration. I don't think that was there before. Missed it. Go back again. So we've got a calibration setting there. Okay, maybe I've probably got to be in sideband for that to work. But also brightness. There we go. So we've got screen brightness now. Because the screen wasn't all that bright before, especially if you were going to use this in sunshine. So we can now turn it down. 128 is probably ideal for the camera. So that's good. But everything now is in a menu system. You can see it's numbered at the top, and it just doesn't time out. And but yeah, so far impressed. So I think I'm just going to connect an antenna to it. But let me first, before I do that, let me just first show you how I got on, my experience in updating the firmware, and then you can decide whether you want to do it yourself. So first thing to say, as always with these firmware updates, you carry this out at your own risk. I deliberately used 2 older laptops because just in case there was any bugs or viruses. Also, these links that I'm showing you on the screen, these came from Paul's YouTube site. That's Oscar Mike 0 Echo Tango. He takes the whole credit for this, and there's a link to his YouTube channel in the description. These 2 links you'll find in this video's description, and we need to download files from both of these websites. First thing we need to get onto our computer is the flash download tool, and that is the expressivif.com link. If you look down the page there, you'll see the download where it says flash download. There's also a good user's guide if you wanted to spend a few minutes looking through this. But other than that, just go ahead and click on the flash download tool. Nothing much will happen. This will zip up the top of the screen. But now if you go to your downloads folder in Windows, you'll see that the file is there. Now you can work in the download folder to open this up and expand it. Personally, I like to use separate folders, but it doesn't really matter either way. When you click on the file, this is a zip file, so it'll give you an option to save it where you want to go. And these are the files that you're going to see. The one that we're going to be interested in is the executable application where it says Flash Download Tool 3.97. Before we launch that program though, we're going to need to get 3 other files. So back to the link in the description, and this time we'll click on the github.com. This will open another web page. Now on here you can see there are 4 files. The one we're interested in is the top one, and that's the ATS Mini version 0-28 zip. So we can go ahead and click on that file. This takes us to the download page. Now to download this file, if you look across to the right there, you'll see that little arrow pointing down into a line where I've put the arrow on the screen. That is the download icon, and we simply need to click on that. Same as last time, this will disappear, zip up into the screen, but then if you go to your downloads file or whatever file you've created, you'll now see you have 2 files in there, the ATS mini file and still obviously the flash download tool. Now once again, this is a zipped file, so you can choose the destination where you want to send this, but once you open it you'll see that there are 5 files. I think there's a user's guide there as an Adobe document, but the ones we're interested in basically are the 3 at the top there where it says ATS Mini, and they're bin files, and they're the ones we're going to need to install into the download tool. It's now time to install that download tool. So back to your folder with your download tool, and the one we want to click on is where it's the application there where it says Flash Download Tool 3.9.7. Now I hit a problem here, which I think was just down to my very old laptop running Windows 7. It said there was a file missing and the program wouldn't open. So what I did at this stage was I got a slightly newer, older laptop running Windows 10, and I tried again, and this time it worked fine. The screens are going to sort of change slightly because I'm on a different computer. Now we can go ahead and switch on the radio and then plug in the USB. Now I had a couple of issues with this, which again I think it's just the fact I'm using an old Windows 7 laptop, but when I first plugged it in I didn't get the Windows sound, and the laptop didn't detect the radio. When I swapped to the later Windows 10 laptop, that fixed it. But let me show you what happened. So the first thing I did was look in my device manager, and I could see there was an issue. And then when I clicked on that, it was just saying that there wasn't a driver available for the computer to read the radio. But like I say, this only happened on the Windows 7 machine, the earlier machine. When I swapped to the Windows 10, it detected it straight away and without an issue. But I just thought I'd tell you that in case you're using an old Windows 7 laptop like myself. We can now go ahead and we can start the flash download tool. Now you get a little settings menu pop up on the screen. You can see there's 3 settings here. We do need to change these for it to work with the radio. So the first one we need to change is where it says chip type. In this box we need to select the ESP32-S3. We can leave the work mode alone, just leave that in develop, and then in load mode we need to select USB. Once we've changed those 2 boxes, we can then go ahead and click OK, and we can look at the flash download tool for the first time. Now, looking around this flash download tool, a lot of these settings we're not going to touch. We're not going to touch the speed, we're not going to touch the mode, we're not going to combine any bin files. First thing we need to do though, if you look at the very bottom, you'll see where it says COM. We need to tell the program which communication port, USB port, we've plugged the radio into. Now in my example, because I've got no other USB devices connected to the laptop, only one is active, and that is COM3, where the radio is connected. If you have got multiple USB devices connected to your computer, you might have to go into Device Manager and find out which COM port the radio is connected, or just simply unplug everything, which might be the easier option. Now you remember that second file that we downloaded and unzipped? That was the ATS mini file, the version 028. So we now need to open that and once again look at the contents of that file. Now the only files we're going to be interested in are the top 3 bin files. So I suggest that maybe you minimize that folder but keep it open, because we're going to need that in a second. Back into the flash download tool now. Now on the screen you'll see I've added an arrow, and that's pointing to a little grey square with 3 little dashes, and you're going to press those, and that's how we select which file goes where. When you click that, it's going to ask for the location of the bin file. Now the one we want to put in there is the middle one, which says bootloader bin. So go ahead, click on that and add it into the download tool. Do exactly the same for the second line, but this time we want to choose the bottom file, which is the partitions bin. And then finally we can add the third file on the third line. In the next column to these bin files, we just need to do a small amount of typing. So on the top one here, you type 0 times 0, and the second one is 0 times 8,000, and the third one is 0 times 10,000. And that's it, we're almost there. The very last thing to do is just add 3 ticks next to those bin files so that the download tool knows to download them. And that's it, we're good to go. Hopefully everything's going to work. So when you're ready, just press the start button and I'll show you live what happened when I did this. Right, okay, so here we go. Radio on the old firmware there, and I'm going to click start now on the software. Radio has gone blank. This is the tense moment where we've seen a progress bar go across the screen as it's being flashed, and it says finish. Oh my god. So Moment of truth then. Going to unplug the USB, switch off the radio, hopefully in focus, switch it back on to reset the EEPROM. Oh, there we go, look at that. Oh, it's worked. Fantastic. So this is the new firmware. We have a S meter there, and then now when I press the encoder, there's no panic because this isn't going to time out on me. One thing that the firmware update hasn't been able to address, and that is the lack of a headphone amplifier in the radio. It's a little bit unforgivable, to be perfectly honest. It wouldn't have cost hardly anything, a few cents really, to add an amplifier chip. They didn't know, so you're stuck with it. And as I said in the review, it is very, very quiet on headphones. Certainly if you music headphones, it's ridiculously quiet. There's a few ways you can get around it. A few people have said to me, Fred, how comes that on your video it sounded really, really loud? Well, that's easy to explain because I'm using the 3.5mm headphone jack and I'm placing that into the microphone input on my camera, and then my camera has a gain control where I can boost it, and that's what I did on the video. Another thing I've been using is this rather nice looking headphone amplifier that I've had for some time. It wasn't that expensive. It looks expensive, but it wasn't. It uses these two little low voltage valves or tubes, if you like. And again, that just plugs into the headphone socket 3.5mm jack, and then you can use the amplifier. I've got this rather nice Kef speaker that I picked up second hand a while ago. This come from the Shed Shack. Again, that was only about £12 from eBay. So that's what I've been using. You can buy just simple headphone amplifiers that are rechargeable, £8 or £9 on Banggood or eBay. Or alternatively, you may have an old pair of computer speakers that you could plug into the 3.5mm jack, and sometimes they come with a headphone output as well, which gets around the problem. It's a shame, and yeah, they really should have fitted an amplifier chip in the radio. I'm sure on the next generation, I'm sure they will do so. I have to be really careful of copyright there from Ian Jury. But yeah, as you can see, this is the setup, little headphone amplifier into the speaker, and it sounds quite nice on FM. Not much bass, but it does sound alright.
The third movement from Handel's Concerto Grosso in A minor, number 4, performed there by the London Festival Orchestra, conducted by James Webster, and ending today's choral evensong.
Best female talent found.
BBC News at 4 o'clock. France has said it will give Ukraine an additional $200 million in military aid funded from the interest on frozen Russian assets. It's part of Europe's response to President Trump's suspension of aid. President Zelensky of Ukraine will go to Saudi Arabia tomorrow
to warrant a better position, and the only people who are going to change that is they themselves.
Government's focusing on other ways to deter Russia. Syria's president is forming a national committee to investigate 2 days of violent clashes.
Visit your nearest Toyota Centre to find out more.
At Live Score Bet, we love Cheltenham just as much as we love football.
Currently as Pakistan of the store than a metonan, Majbur Mission Itera Rubiaran. With the Ponezu Endama Betosilnis, they acknowledge Monosavoti who
it doesn't say on the pump panel, so I've got no idea. I've not seen. I've got 2 handbooks, I've got 2 workshop manuals, and they are different, but I don't think they actually specify Mark 1 or Mark 2. Kilo Sierra Juliet, give me a full call.
Oscar Nancy 5, Kilo Sierra Japan, 5969, 5969. Sierra November 1 Tango, Sierra November 1 Tango, contact.
That guy's
Bravo, Bravo Tango 4, sorry, Papa, Echo 1, Bravo, Bravo.
That guy's trying really, really hard. So yeah, I like this new firmware. As I say, I think it's so much easier in that menu system now. You haven't got to do that silly little double press on the encoder. And as I just pointed out, I also like the extra fine tuning you've got on the display now, all the way down to 1/1000th of a kilohertz. Very, very sort of sensitive. So yeah, I think it's a big improvement. It just shows you what can be done with a firmware update. And thanks to Paul, Oscar Mike 0 Echo Tango on his channel, and also for everyone that directed me over there. Nice little setup, really, isn't it, with a headphone amplifier and the speaker. Quite a nice little DX-in setup for listening to ham radio. So I'm going to bring this one to a close. I hope, as always, the video was helpful to you. If you are a little bit nervous about updating firmware and things, there's no reason to be, really. And at the end of the day, look guys, it's £30 or less, this radio, so even if you totally brick it, it's not the end of the world. And that's the fun with really these cheap little shortwave radios. That's part of it. Anyway, as always, thumbs up from Freddie in the Shack. Thank you for your view time. Always appreciate your view time on this channel. Please, please, please look after each other for me. Stay safe, of course. Catch you on the next one. Cheers, guys.
Tango, Sierra November 1 Tango, contest. Mike Lima Juliet, Florida 5, 5969. 57, dziękuję, merci beaucoup. Good luck, Sierra November 1 Tango. Delta Florida Station. Delta Florida 0, Whiskey Bravo, grüß dich, 5969.